I never expected my phone to ring that night. It was 11:47 p.m., a time when the world outside my small Oregon home falls into a kind of breathless stillness. The only sound inside my living room was the soft hum of the heater and the faint ticking of the little wall clock I'd hung above the fireplace. It used to belong to my husband, Mark. He loved clocks, said they were the last honest thing left in the world. I never understood what he meant, not until 7 years later. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling aimlessly through emails, bills, and old pictures. All the things I did to pretend my life still had shape, when my phone vibrated. A number appeared on the screen, a number I hadn't seen in years. Mark's number. My heart didn't beat. It collapsed. For a moment I genuinely felt lightheaded, like gravity had flickered. No, I whispered to myself. That's impossible. Mark's phone had been destroyed in the accident. His number disabled. His account closed. I had personally submitted the death certificate. Yet my phone screen glowed with the name. Mark calling. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hands trembled so violently, I almost dropped the phone. It rang for 8 full seconds. Then silence. I stared at the black screen for a long, stretched minute, trying to convince myself it was a glitch, a spoof, a cruel scam. Anything but what it looked like. Then, at 11:49 p.m., it rang again. Same number, same name, same impossible reality. This time I answered before I could stop myself. Hello? The word came out thin, fragile. For 3 seconds, there was only static, like the sound old TVs used to make when a signal died. Then a voice, soft, low, familiar. Sarah, don't sleep in the bedroom tonight. I froze. The static continued for a moment. Then, the call cut out. Just like that. The silence that followed was so heavy, it felt alive. I sat perfectly still, my hand still holding the phone to my ear long after the call had ended, as if the universe might undo itself if I moved. Because I knew that voice. I knew it with the kind of certainty that lives inside the bones. It was Mark, not a recording, not AI, not someone's imitation. It was my husband's real voice. The cadence, the breath, the slight rasp he got after long winters, everything. But Mark had been dead for 7 years. The bedroom. My bedroom sat at the end of the hallway, door slightly open. Dark inside, like a mouth waiting to swallow someone. I stared at it from the couch. The hallway felt longer than usual, stretching like an illusion. Why don't sleep in the bedroom tonight? What could possibly be wrong? I told myself I was being irrational. But the way Mark had said it, there was no joke in that voice. There was urgency. Fear. The same fear he'd had the night before he died. My stomach twisted. I reached for the remote to distract myself with TV. Maybe find a news station to drown out the terror building in my chest. But the TV turned on by itself before I touched anything. The screen flickered. Loud static. Then the brightness dropped, and a recording started. One I never remembered saving. It was Mark. A home video. He was in our old backyard, in his blue jacket, smiling at the camera. But the audio was corrupted. His voice faded in and out. I leaned closer. If anything happens, don't bedroom. Promise me, Sarah. Don't be in that room at night. Then the screen went black. My breath shook. I didn't want to be afraid of my own home. But something had shifted. Something deep. The drawer. Trying to calm myself, I walked to the kitchen, made tea, held the cup tight so my hands would stop shaking. Then I heard it. A sound from upstairs. Click, click, click. Like a small drawer being opened and closed. Over and over. There shouldn't be any drawers moving upstairs. No wind, no pets, no one else in the house. I walked to the base of the staircase and slowly looked up. Everything dark. Silent again. Sarah, get a grip, I whispered to myself. But then, the sound came again. Click, click, click. It was coming from our old bedroom. From Mark's nightstand drawer. My throat tightened. My eyes blurred for a moment. That drawer hadn't been opened in 7 years. I hadn't touched it. I couldn't. I swallowed hard, backed away, and retreated into the living room. That's when my phone buzzed with a new notification. Voicemail, 1. Unknown number right pointing arrow 11:52 p.m. My hands shook as I pressed play. The message was only 3 words. Mark's voice again. He's not gone. The photograph. At 12:04 a.m., something fell upstairs. A loud, heavy thud. I ran to the staircase. Hello? Is someone there? My voice echoed slightly. I grabbed the baseball bat from behind the shoe rack, Mark's old habit, and slowly climbed the stairs. Each step felt like walking into colder and colder air. When I reached the top, I saw it. Something lying in the middle of the hallway. A photograph. My breath caught. It was our wedding photo. The same one that had always hung on the bedroom wall. But the frame was shattered, and the photo The photo was different. Mark's face was normal. Mine was blurred out completely, as if someone had erased me from the picture. No, not erased. Smudged out with fingertips. Someone had touched that photo. Someone who shouldn't be here. The bedroom door. Before I could process it, a sound came from behind me. A slow, unmistakable noise. Creak. The bedroom door was opening on its own. The same bedroom Mark told me not to sleep in. I turned around. The door moved silently, slowly, until it stood half open. A thin line of darkness staring back at me. Then something happened that made my blood turn to ice. From inside the dark room, someone whispered my name. Sarah. Not Mark. Not anyone I knew. A deeper voice. A male voice. A voice breathing inches from the floor, like it was speaking upwards. I didn't run. I bolted. Down the stairs. Out of the house. Into the cold front yard barefoot. I called 911 with shaking hands. A dispatcher answered. Ma'am, what's your emergency? I tried to speak. The words jumbled. There's someone inside my bedroom. Then something unbelievable happened. A second voice joined the line. Clear. Gentle. Familiar. Sarah, go back inside. It was Mark again. On the emergency call. Even the operator gasped softly. She heard it too, and then the line went dead. The impossible confirmation. Officers arrived within minutes. 2 swept the house, room by room. They found no one, no footprints, no broken locks, no sign of entry. But the officer inspecting the bedroom came out pale. Ma'am, he said quietly, this room is freezing. It was. Ice cold. Like a refrigerator. Like someone had been standing there for hours, watching. The officer stayed until 2 a.m. When they left, I sat alone on the couch, wrapped in 2 blankets, shaking. At 2:17 a.m., my phone pinged again. A new voicemail. Same impossible number. I pressed play with numb fingers. This time, Mark's voice was calm. Different. Please listen. This time you have to. This time, had he tried before? Tried to warn me? About the bedroom? About the voice? About whatever stood behind that door? I pressed the phone to my forehead. Mark, what's happening to me? I didn't expect an answer. But an answer came. A text message. From his number. Not yet. I'll explain tomorrow. I stared at it, trembling violently. Tomorrow? What was happening tomorrow? Before I could type anything back, the message deleted itself. Completely vanished. All that remained was the echo in my chest. Mark was trying to warn me. About something inside my house. Something alive. Something waiting. Something that knew my name. And the worst part? It had only just begun. I woke up the next morning on the living room couch with a blanket still wrapped around me and the lamp still glowing. I must have fallen asleep sometime after 4 a.m., too drained to stay awake, too terrified to close my eyes. But even in sleep, I dreamt of the bedroom door moving, of someone standing behind it, of Mark whispering my name from a place where the living shouldn't be. When I opened my eyes, sunlight spilled softly through the blinds. For a moment, a single fragile moment, I convinced myself everything had been a nightmare. Then I saw my phone on the coffee table, and the call log. 1 missed call, 3:14 a.m. Mark. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grip the blanket. He had called again while I slept. And that wasn't the worst part. A new voicemail waited. I couldn't bring myself to play it yet. My hands were trembling too much. The bedroom door. Open. Before listening to anything, I forced myself to check the hallway upstairs, mostly so I could stop imagining things. But when I reached the top of the stairs, the world tilted. The bedroom door, the one I was certain I left closed, was open. Fully open. Not a crack. Not halfway. Wide open, like something had walked out, in the middle of the night. A wave of cold air touched my face, not the gentle morning chill of the house, but a deep, hollow cold, like it crawled out from under the floorboards. I whispered a shaky breath. Mark, what are you trying to tell me? Of course, no answer. But the air felt different, heavier, like the room itself was listening. I didn't step inside. I couldn't. Every cell in my body refused. It wasn't fear of the supernatural. It was the sense that I wasn't welcome. Not anymore. The voicemail. Eventually I forced myself back downstairs and pressed play on the new voicemail. Static. 3 seconds of it. Then a voice. Not Mark's. A deeper voice. A voice that sounded like it was speaking from inside a metal pipe. Don't let him in. I dropped the phone. My breath hitched. Don't let who in? Mark? The shadow I heard whispering. Who was him? The message ended with a sound I couldn't place. Like a soft scrape across the microphone. The way something sharp might drag across glass. I didn't pick up the phone for a full minute. When I did, I immediately checked the call details. The voicemail wasn't from Mark's number. It wasn't from any number. Unknown sender, no origin, no timestamp. That shouldn't be possible. Even scam calls have metadata. But this one, it was like it didn't come through a carrier at all. Like it came from somewhere else, somewhere close. The photo frame. Trying to calm myself, I went into the kitchen and made coffee. I focused on normal things, sugar, mugs, warm steam, anything to ground myself in the real world. And for a few minutes, I successfully convinced myself things weren't as bad as they seemed. Then I noticed something on the dining table. The shattered wedding photo frame. Only this time, the photo was different again. Last night, my face had been blurred. Now the blur had changed. It wasn't just smeared out. It was replaced with a black silhouette. A shadow figure the height of a man, with no features. Just darkness. Standing where I should be standing, next to Mark. My hands shook so violently, I almost dropped the frame. Someone, or something, was altering the photograph. Overnight, without ever stepping foot near me. Unless it had stood near me. The back door. At exactly 10:21 a.m., as I sat frozen at the table, I heard something at the back of the house. A slow, gentle rattle. Then another. Then the unmistakable sound of the back door creaking, as if someone was testing it from outside. I stood cautiously. The sound came again. Click, rattle, click. Not forceful. Not violent. Just trying. Like fingers tapping and testing the lock. Trying to find a way in. I approached the door slowly, each step controlled, so I wouldn't panic. When I finally reached it, I saw something that made my lungs seize. The metal lock was moving on its own. Sliding left, sliding right. Like invisible fingers were touching it. I backed away immediately. No, stop, please stop. The lock jerked violently one last time, and then went still. Only then did I notice something written on the foggy glass pane of the door, as if a warm breath had condensed on it moments earlier. A sentence, finger drawn. Let him in. My heart pounded hard enough to hurt. The voice message said, don't let him in. The door said, let him in. Someone was warning me. Someone else was inviting something into my home, and I was caught between them. The pattern begins. Around noon, I sat in the living room trying to piece everything together. Mark's calls, the whispers, the warnings, the bedroom door opening, the moving objects, the photo changing, the back door trying to open. What connected them? The house? Mark? Or something that had been waiting here for 7 years? Then my phone buzzed. A text message. From Mark's number. Just 5 words. Don't turn around. Not yet. I froze, because I heard something behind me. A soft footstep, right on the wooden floor. Then another, slow, creeping, measured. My eyes filled with tears as I stared straight ahead, terrified to turn around. Then the footsteps stopped. The air behind me grew colder. Something was standing there, breathing quietly. Close. Too close. My chest tightened until it hurt. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text. Okay, move now. I shot off the couch and spun around. Nobody. Nothing but empty room. But the carpet fibers behind the couch were pressed down in the perfect shape of 2 footprints. Small ones. A child's. The shadow at the window. I grabbed my car keys and ran to the front porch, desperate for air. The moment I stepped outside, I felt lighter. Like the house itself exhaled behind me. But just as I reached the end of the driveway, something caught my eye. A figure, standing in the upstairs bedroom window. A small silhouette, child-sized, head tilted slightly, arms hanging at its sides, no features. Just a dark outline watching me, watching every move. I couldn't breathe, not because it was a shadow, but because it matched the exact height of where my daughter Emily would have been today if she had survived her birth. 7 years old. My knees weakened. No, I whispered. Not her. Please don't use her. A gust of wind hit my back. When I looked again, the silhouette was gone. The neighbor. Desperate, I walked across the street to my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Callahan. She'd lived there since before Mark and I moved in. When she opened the door, her eyes widened. Oh dear, you look pale. Come inside. I didn't want to sound insane, so I asked something simple. Have you ever noticed anything strange about my house? She paused much too long. Her expression changed, tightened, like she had accidentally heard a confession. Strange how? She asked carefully. I swallowed. Sounds, knocks, shadows. Her face drained of color. Oh, honey, she whispered. You didn't know. Know what? Her voice trembled. The man who lived there before you, he didn't die in the accident like they printed in the paper. She stopped, looked toward my house like she feared being overheard. He went missing inside the house. They never found him. My blood turned ice. Before I could ask more, my phone rang again, and Mrs. Callahan flinched at the sound. I looked at the screen. Same number. Mark calling, she whispered. Don't answer that. But I already had. The call. Sarah, listen carefully. It was Mark. Clear. Alive. Urgent. This thing, it knows your voice. It knows your footsteps. It knows your memories. And every night, it gets closer. My voice trembled. What is it, Mark? The line crackled. He whispered. Don't ever be in the bedroom after midnight. And don't trust any voice that sounds like me unless I say your middle name first. My middle name? Silence. Static. Then, Grace. And the call cut. My middle name is Grace. Mark was the only one who ever used it. Whatever was pretending to be him last night, that wasn't him. The back door. AGAIN. When I got home, the back door was wide open. Not cracked, not swinging. Wide. Open. A trail of tiny wet footprints, child-sized, led from the threshold to the staircase. My breath caught in my throat. Something had entered while I was gone. Something patient, silent. Watching. I felt the cold shift in the hallway, as if the house itself held its breath. Then, I heard it again. From upstairs. Click, click, click. The nightstand drawer. Opening and closing. Waiting for me. Part of me wanted to run forever. But another part, the part that still loved Mark, still mourned Emily, needed answers. Needed to understand why they were tied to this house. Why Mark said it was getting closer. Why something was calling my name from the dark. I stepped slowly toward the stairs. The house creaked under my feet. At the top stood the open bedroom door. Inside, the air was frozen. I heard breathing. Not mine. Not human. Slow. Deep. Wet. Waiting. The same voice from last night echoed softly from the darkness. Sarah. I stepped back. Just then, my phone vibrated in my hand. A text message. From Mark's number. Don't go in. It's not me. I turned and ran downstairs, heart slamming, because whatever was breathing in that room had just stepped closer to the door. The storm outside had finally grown quiet, but inside the house, the silence felt wrong. Not peaceful, not calm. Just waiting. Aunt Miriam stood in the middle of the living room, one hand on the old mantel, her other hand still trembling from what she'd discovered upstairs. The diary. The voice note. The hidden room that shouldn't exist. Nothing in this house made sense anymore. But the painting was the worst. She kept glancing at it, hung above the fireplace, framed in dark cedar wood. It had always been there, a harmless portrait of the house's first owner, drawn more than 100 years ago. But tonight, the eyes looked alive. Not artistically alive, not painted realistically. Alive as in, they tracked her. Aunt Miriam swallowed hard. You're imagining things, she whispered to herself. It's the stress. It's just grief and memories playing with your mind. But then something happened that she could not explain. The man in the painting blinked. A slow, heavy, deliberate blink. Her breath caught. Her knees nearly buckled. She grabbed the fireplace stone just to steady herself. No, 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 she whispered, shaking her head. But she wasn't imagining it. Because when she stepped slightly to the right, the man's head in the portrait turned. Only a few degrees, but enough. Following her movement exactly. Her pulse slammed in her ears. She felt the air shift, as if the room itself exhaled. Then, from the hallway behind her, click. A door, one of the upstairs ones, had opened by itself. Aunt Miriam turned sharply. Hello? No answer. Just the sound of the storm wind outside, brushing against the windows. She took a shaky step toward the hallway, and the floorboard beneath her foot groaned loudly, the way it always had. But tonight, it felt like someone groaned back. She froze, and that's when her phone buzzed. A cold, metallic vibration against her leg. She pulled it out, expecting maybe another alert from the security system. But it wasn't that. It was a notification from her gallery app. New image added. Moments ago. Her blood turned to ice. She tapped it, and almost dropped the phone. The new picture was her, standing exactly where she was right now, in front of the fireplace, with the painting behind her. Only one thing was different. In the photo, the man in the painting wasn't sitting calmly. He was standing behind her in the room, right over her shoulder, his hand almost touching her back. Aunt Miriam stumbled backward and collided with the sofa. No, this is not real. She scrambled to the camera roll. Another image auto-saved. Then another, and another, each one taken seconds apart, capturing her from angles no one should have been able to take inside the locked house. In one photo, she was near the hallway. In another, she was at the stairs. In a third, she was clutching the diary in the hidden room. These weren't photos being taken in the present. They were photos from moments she had just lived. Someone, or something, was documenting her every movement. Her throat tightened. "Who's doing this?" she whispered. Then, her phone buzzed again. A text message. No number. Just the word, unknown. She opened it and screamed. "Stop looking at him." The phone slipped from her hands and hit the floor. Stop looking at who? The man in the painting? The shadow upstairs? The version of herself who'd left warnings in the past? None of it made sense. But something else suddenly did. The painting had never blinked. The man had never moved inside it. No, it was showing her what was behind her, what was in the room with her. Because when she lifted her eyes slowly, very slowly, the painting was empty. The man inside it was gone. Her breath cracked in her chest. No, please no. Then, from the dark hallway, footsteps, soft, measured, coming toward her. Aunt Miriam grabbed her phone with shaking hands and backed into the kitchen. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, somebody, help me." Footsteps grew louder. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. "He found you 12 years ago. He's just catching up." Her heart stopped. 12 years ago. When her life changed. When she moved out. When the accident happened. When her future self first started sending warnings she didn't understand. The footsteps stopped right outside the kitchen door. Aunt Miriam reached for a knife from the counter, but before she could grab it, the lights flickered and cut out. The whole house went dark, pitch black. A whisper floated through the darkness. Miriam. Not a man's voice, not a stranger's. It was her own, but older, rougher, like someone who'd lived through hell, someone desperate. And the whisper said, "Don't let him touch you, or everything ends." Aunt Miriam froze, unable to breathe. Another whisper, this time from behind her ear. "Run." And the part ended with her bolting into the storm, not knowing if she was running from the shadow or running toward the version of herself sending these warnings across time. The storm hit Aunt Miriam like a cold slap as she burst out the back door, stumbling into the yard barefoot. Rain crashed down in sheets, thunder cracked overhead, and the wind pulled at her clothes like invisible hands trying to drag her back inside. But she didn't dare stop. Not when she'd heard her own voice warning her. Not when the man from the painting had stepped out of his frame. Not when something had followed her into the dark. She ran until her legs screamed, slipping in the mud, grabbing the fence for balance. The house behind her was just a shape now, an old black silhouette with one window still glowing softly. The window of the hidden room. The room she wasn't supposed to open. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, she saw him standing at the window. The shadow, the child-sized figure, the thing that looked like, no, it couldn't be. Not him. Her breath fractured in her lungs. "I'm losing my mind," she whispered to herself. "I'm hallucinating. I'm sleep-deprived. Her phone buzzed. A new voice note, from unknown. She didn't want to listen, but her thumb tapped it anyway. Static. Heavy breathing. Then, "Miriam, listen to me. Don't run from the house. Run to the attic." She froze. Her older self again. The same voice that had warned her earlier. "Why?" she whispered into the rain. "Why the attic? What's in the attic?" There was no answer. Just dead air. The message ended. Before she could process it, the wind slammed the backyard gate shut behind her, making her jump violently. It wasn't just wind. Someone had closed it. She spun around, but the darkness was too thick. The rain too loud. All she heard was a faint voice. "Come home, Mom." Her chest tightened in agony. That voice, that small, trembling voice. She had memorized it, held it close for 12 years. Her son. But he was gone. Gone in the accident. Gone before she could say goodbye. Her legs moved on their own. She ran back toward the house, not out of bravery, not even out of fear, but because grief can pull a person harder than anything supernatural ever could. Inside the house, the moment she crossed the threshold, the rain quieted, replaced by the low hum of electricity crackling through the walls. The lights were still out, but the house had changed. The air felt hotter, thicker, like someone had sealed the windows. And from upstairs, a slow thumping noise, the sound of small feet. Not heavy, not adult, child footsteps. Up the stairs. Toward the attic. Her heart was a drum inside her head. Thunder cracked behind her. She followed the sound. Every step up the staircase sent chills crawling under her skin. Halfway up, her phone vibrated again. Another picture auto-saved to her gallery. She opened it without stopping. It was the attic door. Slightly open, a shadow standing behind it. But the shadow wasn't frightening. It was small, fragile, shaped like a boy about 9 years old, the exact age her son had been when she lost him. Tears blurred her vision. "Baby," she whispered. "Sweetheart, is that you?" The house groaned in response. The attic door creaked. And then, her phone screen flickered. Another message appeared. "It's not him." Her blood froze. "Unknown. It will sound like him. It will look like him. But it isn't him. Don't touch it." She gripped the railing tighter. "Is this really me?" she said aloud. "My future self." And the house answered. The attic light snapped on. Bright. Too bright. Like someone had turned on a medical-grade spotlight. Aunt Miriam lifted her hand to shield her eyes and took the final steps up to the attic landing. The door stood before her, half open, waiting. "Okay," she whispered. "I'm here. I'm listening. Now tell me what this is." She pushed the door open. The attic. The attic was nothing like she remembered. Instead of dusty boxes and cobwebs, the space was almost empty. Just one object in the center. A mirror. Old. Tall. Wrapped in the same cedar wood as the painting downstairs. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the mirror's surface. Her reflection stared back. But something was wrong. Her reflection was breathing too fast. Fast enough to fog the glass, even though she wasn't breathing at all. Her throat constricted. Then, her reflection spoke, but her own mouth didn't move. "I told you not to let him touch you." Aunt Miriam stumbled backward. What is happening to me?" Her reflection lifted a shaking hand, pointing behind her. She turned and felt her soul collapse. The small figure stood in the doorway. A boy. Bare feet. Wet hair. Those familiar eyes she'd known her entire life. "Mom, why didn't you come home that night?" he asked softly. Her chest cracked open. She wanted to run to him, hold him, apologize, scream, cry. But her reflection's voice came again, urgent, terrified. "Don't touch him." Lightning struck so loud, the house shook. The boy's face twisted, not in anger, not in grief, in hunger. A slow crack split across his cheek, like a porcelain mask breaking. His voice deepened. "You should have come home, Miriam." Another crack down his forehead, another across his jaw. "It took me instead." She backed into the mirror. The boy, no, the thing, stepped closer. Her reflection screamed, "Move!" But she was frozen, paralyzed between grief and terror. The creature lunged. And at that exact second, the mirror behind her shattered inward, not outward. Hands grabbed her shoulders, gentle hands, warm hands, and yanked her backward into the darkness behind the broken glass. She fell. Hard. Dust. Heat. A ringing in her ears. When she lifted her head, she saw herself, older by maybe 10 years, hair streaked gray, eyes tired, skin bruised. Her older self knelt beside her. "Miriam," she whispered urgently. "Listen to me. You don't have long." Aunt Miriam choked on tears. What is happening? Who was that? Why?" Her older self put a finger to her lips. "That thing wearing your son's face is a parasite. Time-fed. Emotion-fed. It attaches to guilt." Aunt Miriam's vision blurred. "All this time, I thought the house was haunted." Her older self shook her head. "No, you were haunted. And it grew strong enough to manifest." Aunt Miriam collapsed into sobs. Her older self held her. "I sent the pictures. I sent the messages. I sent the warnings." A trembling breath. "I've been trying for years to stop this moment." "But why me?" Miriam asked. "Why now?" Her older self looked at her with unbearable sadness. "Because tonight is the night it chooses a host. And if you let it touch you, it becomes you." Aunt Miriam wiped her eyes. "How do we stop it?" Her older self whispered. "By leaving me here." Silence. Pure, devastating silence. "What?" Miriam whispered. Her older self smiled weakly. "This place between mirrors. It can only hold one of us. One version, one timeline." The creature's footsteps echoed outside the broken mirror door. Her older self cupped her face. "You still have a life, Miriam. Friends. A future. You can heal." The footsteps grew louder. Her older self pushed her toward the broken window of time. "Go," Miriam sobbed. "No, please, come with me." "I can't. Only one." Miriam exits. Her older self looked into her eyes. "And it should be the one who still has hope." The creature roared. Her older self shoved her through, and Aunt Miriam fell backward into her own attic. Alone, the mirror whole again, the creature gone, her breath ragged, her hands shaking, and her phone buzzed once more. One final message from unknown. "Live for both of us." Aunt Miriam sank to her knees, and for the first time in 12 years, she let herself truly cry.